All right, recording in progress, and you guys are already coming into the room. You're the best. You're the best. Good to see you. We are live streaming on Facebook. Number one, welcome to the Facebook peeps. Welcome to all of the Zoom registries, and you are pouring into the room here. And I am so happy to be with you again tonight for another one of our happy hours. And tonight, it's all about our favorite hydrangea, right? It's all about hydrangeas. And so we're going to be talking about everything hydrangea tonight, from sort of an overview of where you should plant them for the most success and their care, and a few varieties and all of that sort of thing. So stay with me. We'll also have a little bit of insider information about the Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival that's coming up. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. And, oh, Zach, you're way ahead of me. I always start out by asking what's in your glass for the happy hour. And it doesn't matter whether it's tea, coffee, a cocktail, beer, wine, cider, what matters is that you've chosen to sit down and take a breath with me and celebrate the most life-affirming thing we can do, which is plants and gardens. And so welcome, and I love hearing from everyone. What's in your glass? The other thing I love for you to type in chat, and if you've never been on a Zoom before, it's the little speech bubble that's either at the bottom or the side of your screen, depending on the device, and you click on that. And you can either respond just directly to me or to everyone. And just know that I don't monitor chat during the presentation because you got to talk and present, and I can't read at the same time. All right. And I don't respond to the raised hands. So don't click on raise your hand at the bottom. I answer questions at the end of the presentation when I will come back to the chat, and I will read questions from the top down, and we'll do as many as we can by 6. And any that I don't get to by 6 o'clock, I promise I will answer in the blog at hyanniscountrygarden.com. So we will get to all the questions in one form or another. Another thing I love hearing from you, by the way, is if this is your first time in one of the happy hours, I would love to hear that. And if it is your first time, what town do you live in? Where are you joining me from? That's always fun to know. So please type that in, and know that I am just very pleased that we are here tonight talking about Cape Cod signature plants. And I have to say to you, it has never been more exciting to plant hydrangeas than it is now, because there are so many wonderful types available. So many types. And thank you, Susan and Rima. Good to have you with me. And all of your beverages sound delicious, and I will enjoy my beverage after the presentation. So, hydrangeas, big topic. Let's get right to it. Let's get right to my share screen. And I'm going to go to Hydrangea Joy, share the screen. We're going to go to play the slideshow. And here we are. Welcome to Hydrangea Joy Happy Hour here in mid-June. And it was a beautiful June day. Now, I have to say a word about this picture, okay, because I don't want you to get the wrong idea. Hydrangeas are not edible, okay? If you are making a hydrangea cocktail, it has to be in name only. Yeah, you can make them pink or blue. You can use the ingredients of your choice, but none of those green ingredients should be actual hydrangeas. Now, tonight, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some great plants. I'm going to sun or shade, what you should plant where, which I find that a lot of people still don't understand. So we're going to go over that. We're going to talk about color on hydrangeas and a little sneak peek at the events at Hyannis Country Garden for the Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival. Did you know that there are 75 species of hydrangea? Like, our mind is swimming because it's all we can do to keep these 5 sorted out, right? It's all we can do to kind of stay on top of the 5 that we most frequently plant. The first species is Hydrangea macrophylla, and you can kind of see from the name macrophylla, that means big leaf hydrangeas. Sometimes people call these big leaf hydrangeas. The blue balls are called mop heads, right? The round flower balls are called mop heads. So that's species number 1 that we plant all the time. The lace caps, also called mountain hydrangeas, right? They are, lace caps can be either Hydrangea serrata or the mountain hydrangea. Sorry, Hydrangea serrata is mountain hydrangea, or they can be the macrophylla. And I don't respond to raised hands during this because I can't monitor writing and speaking at the same time. The human brain is not capable of multitasking, and the sooner we all accept that, the better off we are. So I will answer all questions in chat later on. If you have a question, type it in chat. All right, so mountain hydrangeas, Hydrangea serrata, and big leaf hydrangea, Hydrangea macrophylla. Lace caps can be either one. And as you can see, they're not the round balls. They are some fertile flowers on the inside, surrounded by a ring of infertile flowers. Smooth hydrangeas, Hydrangea arborescens. So I always think of that song, Smooth. So Hydrangea arborescens, you're probably most familiar with Annabelle, but there are several others, and we'll look at a couple of them tonight. This is a hydrangea that is native to the eastern United States. And pink or white. This is Invincibelle Spirit 2. There are a few different shades of pink or mauve available in smooth hydrangeas. There are panicle hydrangeas, Hydrangea paniculata. I think most people are very familiar with limelight as a panicle hydrangea, and there are many more. We'll look at several of them later. And our native oak leaf hydrangea, Hydrangea quercifolia. The foliage looks like the genus Quercia, which is oaks. So that's how oak leaf hydrangeas are named. And many people associate these, by the way, with the shade, but they do quite well in full sun, and their foliage has the best color in full sun. So if you are planting hydrangeas in full sun, keep this one on your list. Now, if you have full sun, all right, what do you plant, right? Now, you could also plant these same hydrangeas in part sun. And full sun is 6 to 8 hours, morning to evening. Okay, that's full sun. Part sun is about 4 or 5 hours that's in the noon hour, that covers the noon hour, 11 to 2, 10 to 3, 10 to 2, that's part sun. So keep that in mind, because hydrangeas that are appropriate for shade and part shade may not be appropriate for part sun. I know it's a little confusing that you think maybe part shade and part sun should be the same, but no. Part sun is that period of sun around the noon hour. Part shade is the sun in the early morning or the late afternoon. So what's available? What's good for full sun places or part sun places? The panicle types, Hydrangea paniculata. And if we're talking going from short to tall here, Firelight Tidbit is a short panicle hydrangea. And by the way, all of the shorter hydrangeas, whether they are panicles or mop heads or lace caps, they're great in containers. So if you want to grow hydrangeas in pots, look for the ones that are estimated to get 3 feet around that area. Those will be great for you to grow in pots. And Firelight Tidbit is one of them. Firelight Tidbit turns pink in the fall as many of the hydrangeas do. Bobo gets about 5 feet tall and wide, one of our first shorter paniculatas. This one does not turn very pink in the fall. This one gets kind of a tan with a little pink tinge, but it doesn't get really pink in the fall. Little Hottie, also one that stays white to tannish pink in the fall, also a plant that grows to about 5 feet tall and very stem sturdy, as you can see here, which is we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. Little Quickfire and Quickfire are both hydrangeas, and they're called Quickfire because they are earlier to bloom than many panicle hydrangeas, and they turn pink earlier than some panicle hydrangeas. Pinky Winky is one that turns pink from bottom to top, probably the panicle hydrangea with the silliest name, but all right, Pinky Winky, and now there's Pinky Winky Prime as well, so you can have both. Limelight is one that many people are familiar with, and Limelight doesn't turn very pink, but Limelight Prime has been recently introduced as a version of that plant that is not only more stem sturdy, but also turns pink in the fall. Because many people want, to have that play of color. Grandiflora, which was the original PG hydrangea, Hydrangea paniculata grandiflora. That's where the PG comes from. This was one of the first named varieties, I would say, of the panicle hydrangea. You don't find it so much in the marketplace anymore. And the reason is the flowers are very big and heavy, which we'll talk about in a minute, and it's not very stem sturdy. But many of the panicle hydrangeas, particularly the ones that are fairly new to the market, these have flowers that age to pink. Also good in full sun to part sun are the smooth hydrangeas, Hydrangea arborescens, whether they are short like wee white. And by the way, I forgot to mention this up front, but if you want to take a screenshot of any of these, if you want to shoot it with your cell phone, go right ahead. But also know that we are recording, and the recording will be up at the bottom of the events page at hyanniscountrygarden.com in a couple of days. And we're live on Facebook. And so that recording will be on the Hyannis Country Garden Facebook page later tonight. So in case these names go by very quickly, I get that. Garnetta, these have pink flowers, medium-sized plant. These are the pink flowers just starting to open. I took this picture at Hyannis Country Garden just the other day, so these weren't open yet, but they get pink, trust me. And Sublime. I love the look of this plant. Kermit might say it ain't easy being green, but if you are a hydrangea, it's pretty fabulous to be green. And if you cut flowers for arrangements, green flowers are the greatest, and these dry very well as well. Invincible Spirit 2 is one of the pink smooth hydrangeas, and these grow very well in full sun or part sun. The other advantage to all the smooth hydrangeas is they bloom on new growth. And so whether it's been a hard winter, or whether your landscaper or your spouse or yourself has cut the hydrangeas back, you will get good flowering on the smooth hydrangeas, be they pink or white. So that is an advantage to this plant. And this is also a plant that you can recommend to people who live in much colder areas. Annabelle and Incredible are two of the earliest white smooth hydrangeas, and they do fine in full sun or in part shade, a wide range of shade conditions, particularly for Annabelle. She can take more shade. Incredible, I think, wants to be incredible in the full sun. Now, if you are growing smooth hydrangeas right now, you might see this right now on some of your plants. I took this picture last night on one of my smooth hydrangeas, and it is the hydrangea leaf tire. It is, if you open that packet up, if you go out and you see those little packets and you open it up, inside, this is what you will see. You will see a larva of the green leaf tire. You will see the webs that it used to stick it together. You will see its poop, that its frass that it has left in there, but it has itself all protected in that little packet. So needless to say, if you spray something on, it's not really going to do any good because you can't get it into that little packet. On the other hand, you can open the packets up and expose them to the birds, and the birds would be very happy to eat them. Or you can just pinch those little packets off and toss them away. And don't worry, where you pinch, that shrub usually makes two more flower stems, and so you will get even more flowers as a result of pinching those hydrangea leaf tire packets off. And just know that those hydrangea leaf tires are active early in the summer. If you put on your calendar next year to look for them at the end of May, you'll get a jump on them right away. Now, blue hydrangeas will live in full sun, but they are not going to be happy. So if you have your blue mophead hydrangeas in full sun, they will live, but over time, this is what you will see. Their flowers get toasted very quickly. And here's why. Even if you keep them wet, and I had one of my consultation clients today at Hyannis Country Garden, she said, will they be all right if I keep them really wet? And I said, unfortunately, no, because you might be saturating the soil. But on hot, sunny days, especially with our Cape Cod sea breezes, which blow water away from plants very quickly, those plants with their big leaves and their big flowers are respiring the moisture faster than they can replace it from the ground. So it is very common for you to see a wilted hydrangea at the end of a hot day, even if you watered them well. And every time that blue hydrangea wilts, it dies just a little. And so if you plant your blue mopheads or lace caps in full sun, they're going to brown out by the beginning of August, which is fairly tragic because hydrangeas can be gorgeous into September, right? By August, however, in full sun, this is how they're going to look. And it's because they've wilted again and again in hot, sunny, and even windy conditions. You don't want this, right? So if you have hydrangeas in full sun, you might want to consider moving them probably next fall into part shade. And, you know, if you've got them on the outside of the south side of your building, this is what you're going to see, even if they are watered. Although I think in this picture, you see the water spout here, and you see nothing connecting it to the hydrangea. So that makes us wonder. However, when they do this again and again and again, they brown out very quickly. So keep these plants in part shade. They want to have their shades on. So keep them in part shade morning sun or very late afternoon sun, but protect them from sun between the hours of 10 and 3. That's the crucial time for these plants. Morning or late afternoon sun. Now, if you have them in morning or late afternoon sun, your flowers will last into September, and this is how they look. In late August and September, they enter their antique phase, where they turn from that sky blue or that deep blue to a softer lavender blue with touches of burgundy and pink. And they are just so gorgeous. And this is the stage that you can pick them for drying as well. So worth planting these in the right conditions where they're shielded from midday sun. This is an example of a lace cap, and this one is tough stuff. And lace cap hydrangeas have fertile flowers in the middle and sterile flowers around the outside. Many people love lace caps, and then other people, when they plant them, they think, my hydrangea flowers aren't opening. Well, if you're thinking that, you have a lace cap. There are advantages to lace cap. Lace caps are more attractive to bees. So know that as well. Now, here, plant both of these where they are shaded from at least 11 to 3, okay? Both the lace caps and the mop heads. Let's talk for a minute about hydrangea color, because some panicles don't turn pink. Bobo is an example of that. They stay white or kind of tannish pinkish white, but they don't turn pink. Others start out white, like firelight, and then they go to light pink. This is firelight again. And then they go to dark pink, and this is firelight. And back here, by the way, this one is Little Quickfire, also does the same thing, going from dark pink. And firelight turns into kind of a deep wine claret red later in the fall. There's a new version of Limelight Prime that turns pink in the fall. So if you want that and you like a look of a limelight, then you might look for Limelight Prime. And here's Little Quickfire in August as it starts to turn to pink. This one is Little Lime Punch. Little Lime does not turn pink, but Little Lime Punch has that punch color. Many macrophyllus and serratas, their color, as you may know, are pink in alkaline soil and blue in acidic soil. Now, on Cape Cod, if we do nothing, the chances are our hydrangeas are blue. And the reason is we have naturally acidic soils here. It has nothing to do with pine needles. It has nothing to do with oak leaves, and no coffee grounds do not acidify your soil. All right. We have naturally acidic soils in the Northeast. And unless your area is getting lime from a lawn, or unless it's leaching lime from a foundation, your macrophyllus and serratas are going to be blue or some other shade of blue. If the soil around your plant is a mixed pH, some acidic, some alkaline, you are likely to have a multicolored plant. And that's kind of fun. I have a multicolored plant in my garden. And by the way, I don't attempt to manipulate pH. I plant my hydrangeas and, you know, may the color fall where it may. I have other things to do. Fortunately, since I have naturally acidic Cape Cod soil, most of my hydrangeas are blue. But this one is actually planted near a walkway that has stone dust that has makes the soil more alkaline. And so on this plant, I always have a range of blue and pink flowers and shades of lavender in between. If you don't have a place that naturally does this and you want to see this, mentally divide the area around your hydrangea into quarters, right? And on 2 opposite quarters, you can sprinkle lime, and you got to put a fair amount there in order to sweeten that soil. And the opposite 2 quarters, if you're on Cape Cod, you do nothing. If you are elsewhere, you might want to put sulfur to acidify those other quarters, and you get hydrangeas in multiple colors. And here is my plant. You can see next to that walkway, pink, pink, pink. And next to the native soil, blue, blue, blue. So it's a confusing gender reveal party all over here. So know this, color develops over time. So some people look at their new hydrangeas and think, oh, it's not blue. Well, you know, when they just come out, they are not blue. They are green going to white and then to pale blue, and the deeper blue color develops over time. So don't think if you have this, it means that you need to put aluminum sulfate or sulfur on the soil. If your soil is naturally acidic, you don't, you just need to wait over time. Now know this, that light blue or light pink is always going to be light blue or light pink. This is a Nico blue. It will be light blue in acid soil. It will be light pink in acidic soil, but it's always going to be light. It's never going to be dark purple. It's never going to be dark blue. So that's a genetic thing, the intensity. Medium blue or medium pink. Well, you got endless summer or penny mac, right? Medium blue or medium pink. They're always going to be a medium blue or a medium pink. In a minute, I'll show you a picture of enchantress, and that's always a medium blue or a medium pink, depending on the pH of your soil. Now, purple or dark pink. This is summer crush, and summer crush is either purple or dark pink. It's never going to be light blue. It's never going to be dark blue. It's going to be either dark purple or dark pink. So it's a genetic thing. Success with hydrangeas counts on you placing them in the right place, sun and shade, we just talked about that, but also not to control their size. You can't keep these plants under the window frame. Give it up, no matter what variety you are planting, okay? If they are too tall for the location, move them, because if you try and make them shorter, you are doomed to lose in one summer, and you are doomed to have fewer flowers. These are Nico blue hydrangeas. This is at Mal Condon's property, and Nico blue used to be kind of the gold standard for blue hydrangeas here on the Cape when I moved here, certainly in '93. They are big plants. They grow 6 to 8 feet tall and wider, all right? So they are big plants. And this is how a Nico blue should look, right? You should see flowers from top to bottom, all over that plant. This is what a Nico blue looks like when it has been neatened up in the fall or the spring, either to try and neaten it up for some unknown reason. This is, you know, there was no reason that this plant had to be neatened up because it's in a condo association out in the middle of nowhere. But when you do try and neaten them up, or you cut them below the windowsill in the fall or the spring, this is what you get. You get a dome of green foliage on the top and only a few flowers on the bottom. This picture was taken in a good hydrangea year when all Nico blues and other blue mopheads were covered top to bottom with flowers, but not this one because someone had attempted to make it shorter. Here is a tale of two hydrangeas. These hydrangeas lived about 3 or 4 houses apart. I have passed them on my way home every summer. The hydrangea on the left, right, was not cut back at all. And the hydrangea on the right was neatened up in the fall. Same hydrangea, endless summer. Same street, same light, right? Neighbors. The hydrangea on the right, the difference is somebody cut it back. Now, if you cut it back, your hydrangea is going to be just as tall as it was the previous year. They replaced their height in one summer. So if your plant is too tall for its location, move it. There are so many varieties, however, that are shorter. Most of the hydrangea breeders, whether they are proven winners or endless summer or Monrovia, they are all developing hydrangeas that are shorter. And so look for those, because if you need to move your older, taller variety out, you will find varieties that are shorter. Now let's talk about stem sturdiness because this is something that I hear complaints about, and that is their hydrangea flopping. This is an Annabelle. Annabelle is a famous flopper. She's got big flowers and she is not stem sturdy. So this is how, if you have a hydrangea that is not stem sturdy, this is how you might want to stake it, okay? And you put right here in the middle, a stake right in the middle of the plant. See that? I put that bamboo stake right in the middle of the plant. Then you take your twine and you wind it around the stake and you wind it out and around a single stem, one stem, not the whole plant. If you wind a cord around the whole plant, it looks like a plant in bondage. Not a good look. So put the cord around the stake, around a single stem, pull that stem up to the angle where you want it to be, pull the innermost ones up straight, and then gradually more outward so that you end up with a plant that is staked but doesn't look like it's staked. All of that staking is in the middle of this hydrangea and you don't see it. And so I've got flowers from top to bottom, right? Which is fine, but it doesn't look staked, but they're supported, and in a heavy rain, they all don't end up in the mud. Other varieties, however, can droop as well, like Paniculata grandiflora. I think this is why this plant isn't as popular anymore, because those flowers are so big and heavy, and they aren't at all stem sturdy. Sometimes you can find Paniculata grandiflora in a tree form, which this is, so it ends up looking like a weeping tree. And if you've got a tree form hydrangea with big flowers, accept that it's going to be a weeping tree because they aren't stem sturdy. Endless summer, not particularly stem sturdy. And a lot of people, their flowers end up, kind of at the bottom of the plant. Now, here are several ways to deal with this. Number one, you can stake them, like I just showed you about the Annabelle. Number two, you can ignore it. That's my strategy. And you can treat it like a blue waterfall, where if you've got flowers falling from the top to the bottom, God love them and live and let live, right? I'm not going to stress about that. Some people pick those flowers that are at the bottom. So that's a possibility. Limelight Prime has been selected for stem sturdiness. So you might want to look for that. Big flowers, but stem sturdy. Blue Enchantress. This one is very stem sturdy. And I wish I had a good photo. My Blue Enchantress right now is loaded with flowers, but they haven't opened yet. And it's like 4 times this size. It's about 5 feet tall and gorgeous blue, medium blue flowers, but very stem sturdy plant. And the interesting thing about Blue Enchantress is it also has black stems. So that's an added advantage to this plant. Know that fertilizer doesn't make stems stronger. In fact, it can make the problem worse. A lot of times people think that fertilizer is the answer to everything. But the problem with fertilizer and a plant not being stem sturdy is the fertilizer will promote bigger flowers, which are heavier flowers, and faster growth, which is weaker growth. And so fertilizing your hydrangeas will make them more floppy, not less. Keep that in mind. Let's talk about watering and wilting. We saw this picture a minute ago. It makes you sad, right? First of all, mulch to keep water in the soil. And when you water your hydrangea, water the entire area, not just the base of the plant. This is the mistake that people who hand water make, is that they aim that stream of water right at the base of the plant, forgetting that the roots go out a foot or more beyond the edge of the plant, beyond what we call the drip line. Not only that, But if you're just watering right underneath the plant, the dry soil on all sides is going to suck that moisture away, and you are not going to get an even, deep level of moisture around your hydrangeas. If you can water with a soaker hose or a sprinkler, that is great. If you have a drip system and the drip system was only set up to water the new plants, so the circles are about this big, you might want to have that drip system added onto so you have a second ring of circles that are out under the drip line of the plant so that a big area gets deeply soaked when you water. So plants often will, however, still droop at the end of the hot day, even if the soil is moist. So particularly if it's a very hot day and they are in sun. So don't think that necessarily a drooping hydrangea at 3 o'clock in the afternoon means that you need to water more. Wait and see if that hydrangea has perked up by 6:30 at night. The soil has plenty of moisture. It's just that they can't take it up fast enough on a hot day to keep those flowers and leaves stiff and fully hydrated. Try not to splash the leaves because that promotes leaf spot fungus. And if you have hydrangeas that are getting splashed by your lawn irrigation, which often happens, you might see this on your hydrangea plants. Oh, hang on, I gotta pick up. Okay, sorry. I dropped my cell phone, which is my timing device. Try not to splash the leaves when you water, okay? Make it so that your lawn irrigation isn't splashing the leaves. And know that some hydrangeas are more prone to leaf spot than others. At Country Garden, recently we didn't carry a particular brand of hydrangea because it is so prone to leaf spot. So just know that if you see one of your hydrangeas that's filled with this leaf spot and you see another that doesn't have any, it might be a matter of variety, or it might be that one is getting hit every other day with the lawn irrigation and the other one is not. Now, the good news, this leaf spot is a cosmetic issue only. It doesn't kill the plants, all right? Looks bad, but you can take the worst of the leaves off if you want, but then try and adjust the watering. Okay, now let's talk about the Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival because it is, oh my goodness, right around the corner. And this is going to be an amazing year for the Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival. First of all, it is the 10th anniversary. I can't believe it. The 10 years have gone by. It's going to be a great hydrangea summer. There are 100 gardens on tour and more events than there have ever been. And that is a wonderful thing. And of course, during the Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival, we are all over hydrangeas at Country Garden. So come in and see them. Also, we are hosting the kickoff party on July 5th at Hyannis Country Garden. Register to come so, the garden center can be prepared, but it is a free event. You will have people from the Hydrangea Society there. People from the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce are there, and they are the people who have run with my vision of the Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival, and I'm just so thankful that they did. There will be, information for you and all kinds of great things. So stop by on July 5th, and you can get all the details on the events page at hyanniscountrygarden.com. Also on the events page, we have all the other Hydrangea Festival events listed. Natalie Carmoli from Proven Winners will be there. The Bloomin' Easy team is going to be there. And I am going to be doing another one of these Hydrangea Fest happy hours with different hydrangea information than tonight. So I hope you sign up and join me there. On the Cape Cod HydrangeaFest.com website, there's a flip book that you are going to love. It has the event schedule. You know, in addition to all the open gardens, there are all kinds of events going on. So the flip book lists all those events. And boy, check out the events from the Sandwich Art Association. I think they have 5 different amazing events on a Tuesday, on the Tuesday that the festival is open, including my garden being open for their benefit. So check those out. There is a garden tour schedule in the booklet. You can see all the nonprofits that are listed that the open gardens are open for the benefit of. And this is such an important event for our local nonprofits. So I do hope that you will visit as many gardens as possible. And you can see on this same website, you can download the event schedule for a phone, or you can download the latest tour schedule in PDF form that you can print out. You can go and you see all the gardens listed by day, and you can order a copy of the Cape Cod Hydrangea Fest poster, which will also be available for sale at many of the gardens. All right, well, reminder, I'm going to be taking questions in chat from now until 6. So this is the time for you to type your question in chat if you're on the Zoom call. If you have a question and you are on the Facebook Live, put it in comments and I will answer it later. And if we don't get to all of the chat questions tonight, I will save them and I will put them up on the Hyannis Country Garden blog and I will answer them there. So let's get out of the slide. Let's stop the share and let's get back into chat to answer some questions. Okay, so put your questions in and I'm going from top to bottom with the questions and I'm getting up to the top. Right. Okay. Julie says she doesn't know what type of hydrangeas she has. I have some lace caps and some look like mop heads, but I want to move them. And I wonder what the best time of year. You can move any of the hydrangeas in fall or spring. If you do it in the fall, do it in early September. Don't wait until late October or November to do it. Do it in early September. If you move the lace caps or mop heads, they may suffer in flowering no matter when you do it, whether you do it in the fall or the spring. And the reason is those mop heads and those lace caps, they form their flower buds for next year in July and August. So no matter when you move them, it might disrupt their flowering, but only for 1 year. I've read you can increase blooms by pinching the topmost blooms. Is this something you do with specific hydrangeas? I do not pinch my hydrangeas. If you pinch your hydrangeas early, like in July, right, and you pinch the top leaves there on those shoots, that plant will make 2 shoots in response, which means you will get 2 flowers. Why don't I do that? First of all, if the plant is a remontant variety like Endless Summer, that means that you have fewer flowers on the new growth because you're pinching off that top flower bud. So that's one reason I don't do it. Secondly, I find that if a flower bud that's on the terminal end of a stem makes it through the winter, that is the biggest flower I have. And if I pinch that off, I might get 2, but they're smaller. So I don't pinch, and you know, frankly, it seems like fussy work to me, so I don't do that. But I know I have friends who do, and who are big pinching devotees. So I leave it up to all of you. And you know what? I would charge you to experiment on a half of your plant, pinch it, and on the other half don't, and see what you think. See what you think. Do you have a favorite mulch for hydrangeas? I use a bark mulch, and whatever mulch you like the look of, that's what you should use. It all functions in pretty much the same, and you want to put 1 inch or 2, not more than 2 inches of mulch on anything, because plants' roots want air as well as moisture and the decaying plant matter. I have a hydrangea about 4 by 4, and it has kind of waxy leaves. It blooms deep purple or blue. They used to only bloom inside of the plant. And for the past years, the blooms are outside. I've had it for 25 years, no idea what it is. Google glowing embers hydrangea and see if it looks like that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when it is in bloom, send me a couple of pictures, one from far back and one from up close, showing that plant on a cloudy day. It's really, really hard to identify things from photos that are taken in the sun, okay? On a cloudy day, if you send that to me, clfanari@countrygarden.com, I'll help you figure it out. But I suspect from your description, glowing embers. Should you water at night or in the morning? As I often say in the garden, there's the ideal time and there's real life. And sometimes we have to go with real life. The ideal time, particularly for a hydrangea that might be prone to leaf spot, is early in the morning, so that then the plant has all day to dry out and it's less prone to leaf spot. If you're watering in the evening and the hydrangea stays wet, if the leaves stay wet, particularly if you're watering using a sprinkler, that's a situation that promotes leaf spot fungus. So you'll have more leaf spot that way. On the other hand, if you are watering with soaker hose, doing it in the evening is fine. And frankly, if you have a hydrangea that needs watering and you get home from work at 5 o'clock, don't leave it wanting all night. That's more likely to brown the flowers. Give it at least, a soaking until you get to it the next day. All right. Also, I have a funky looking leaves at the top of some hydrangeas. They do seem to flower, just weird looking. Oftentimes, and everybody will say, oh no, I don't use herbicides, but oftentimes funky looking leaves on hydrangeas are caused by herbicides. And pre-emergent weed preventers, such as preen, should never be used around hydrangeas. So ask yourself if that might be an issue, or has a weed killer been used on a nearby lawn, or a weed preventer, pre-emergent, used on a nearby lawn. Even the preen company will tell you, do not use this product by hydrangeas. Hydrangeas are very sensitive to herbicide damage, and funky foliage is the #1 sign. And if it's also got funky flowers, then that's also a sign. Do you have eclipse hydrangea at Hyannis Country Garden? And what are the optimal conditions? I love the colors. We had eclipse earlier. I can't promise you that today we have it. We might. I didn't go in the hydrangea section today, but we have had it already, and I'm sure we will have it again. We have an amazing range of different varieties of hydrangeas. And this is a plant that I would probably put where it's getting about 4 or 5 hours of sun, but in the morning or the late afternoon, so that you have the best color on the foliage, but the big mop head style flowers don't wilt. Is it necessary to remove dead canes every year? Is it acceptable to do it every other year? Well, Gwen, let's be honest. Whatever you can get to is acceptable, right? Because we're all busy people here, and sometimes some things have to fall through the cracks. And if it's removing dead hydrangea canes, that's probably one of the better things to let fall through the cracks, right? Keep your oil changed in your car, and keep your vegetable garden producing your food. But the hydrangea canes, if dead, is dead, and they're not going to go anywhere. So if you want to wait to every other year, that's fine. And many people actually wait 2 years, because if the dead canes are 2 years old, you can usually grab them toward the end of summer and just pull them out. You don't even have to necessarily cut them out. So I will leave it to you. And, if you don't find them visually objectionable, then, do what works for you in your life. For tough stuffs that rebloom, do I remove the spent flowers? Also, a limelight prime has no buds at this point. Is that normal? First of all, if any plant that is a remontant, that is a reblooming variety, clipping off the wilted flowers can hasten a little bit the repeat flowering. So that's number one. Number two, it is perfectly normal for a paniculata not to have flower buds yet. They don't come into flower until into July. You're not going to see those for another 3 weeks at least. So no worries, completely normal. Does Hydrangea Country Garden carry magical everlasting revolution? You know, Zach, I'm a fan of some of those everlasting plants. I can't remember where, I think it might be Revolution in my own garden, and I have liked them. Fairly bud hardy and very stem sturdy, but not as many of the growers are growing them. I have not seen this plant at Country Garden at this point. Any plant that you're interested in, let our inventory manager, Tracy Monroe, know about it. Because if she's putting in an order and it happens to be available and she knows that, you know, you're interested, she will put it on her radar. But sometimes a plant can be a really good plant and it's just not as available to us, and that's a shame. What's the tallest blue or purple hydrangea with sturdy stems? I would say Enchantress, blue Enchantress. It's about 5 feet tall and 5 feet wide, and it is quite sturdy. So I would say that is the tallest sturdy one to my knowledge right now. And as I say, they're introducing a new hydrangea every 10 minutes. So keep tuned. One of my favorites is Mathilda Guchess. It's nearly impossible to find now, unfortunately. Okay, Karen, I'm so glad it's your first time joining us here. Wonderful. I have a friend with macrophylla hydrangeas that haven't bloomed in 10 years. They're in part sun. She feeds them with hollytone and she hasn't pruned them. Again, she says thoughts. I want to know where she lives. And if she lives in a place where it goes down, you know, to 10 degrees or below reliably every winter, that's why the buds are getting zapped. So that's number one. Number two is she's got a variety of hydrangeas that aren't at all bud hardy. And bud hardiness also varies from variety to variety. And I have planted many hydrangeas that are lovely in the photographs and lovely when I buy them, but they aren't reliably bud hardy. Big Daddy is one that immediately comes to my mind. My neighbor's Big Daddy, it might bloom this year, but I don't think it's bloomed for the last 14 years because it's not bud hardy. So I would ask her that because that's the main reason. If they are in part sun and hasn't pruned them, they are a variety that isn't bud hardy through the winter. Is it okay to cut hydrangea flowers to bring inside? Does it harm the plant? No, it doesn't harm the plant. It's fine. However, if you cut them when they're real fresh blue in June and we're all excited, they're going to wilt inside very quickly. So wait until early August into later August to start cutting, and don't cut too many off of any one plant. This is the reason that you need several hydrangeas, because you need to be able to cut 3 off of this plant and 3 off of another plant. And that minor amount of cutting isn't going to hurt your flowering for next year. Okay. All right. Do hydrangeas need to be fertilized with what? Meredith, it kind of depends on the fertility of your soil, number one. And, you know, we know now we are advised on all directions, from the state to people who care about our waterways and water quality, to have a soil test done once in a while and see if you need to fertilize this year. See what the fertility is. So that's number one. Secondly, if I were you, I'd use your eyeballs and your brain and look at your plants. Are they growing well? Do they look good? Are they filled with flowers this year? Are the leaves nice and green and not yellow? You know, if they are, I would say that they are probably in good shape. Now, if you do need to fertilize your hydrangeas, Hollytone is a great fertilizer to use. It is organic, and it helps keep blue ones blue. Not that we need to do that on the Cape, but do, you know, once in a while, send a soil sample off to UMass and find out exactly what that fertility is, because it's important for us here on Cape Cod to protect the health of our waterways and the health of our soil. All right. Best varieties for part shade. Any of the lace caps or the mop heads are great for part shade. You can also use Annabelle in part shade. So the smooth hydrangeas are fine in part shade. The pink varieties like Invincibelle, Spirit, and Blush actually get a little more pink in full sun, but the smooth arborescens tolerate a part shade quite nicely. All right, I'm trying a bobo in a large container. It's off to the side of the garage, which is basically right on the street. I worried that when the snowplow clears snow in the winter, it might get burned. Would it be better to move the container into the garage? Um, you know what I would do is, why don't you just, if the container is one that doesn't crack in the winter, just pull it back 10 feet from the road and leave it in, you know, out there. It certainly will survive if it's in a big container. If it's in a small container, you might want to put it in the garage. And I overwintered several containers in the garage in hydrangeas in containers. I treat them like lawn furniture. I put them in at the end of October, early November. They're in my garage. They break dormancy, most of them a little early. That's all right. You just ignore that. And then you pull them out in early May, and they do very well. And that's how I handle my tidbit, firelight tidbit, is I pull it into the garage. Okay, I'm gonna answer a couple more and then we'll save the rest in chat. So I know there are a lot of messages. I promise you, I will answer the unanswered messages on the Hyannis Country Garden blog in the next couple of days. How often and how long should a drip rerun? Everybody wants to know that. Or how long should I run my sprinkler? Here's why I have to waffle on the answer, Wayne, because I don't know what your drip system is like. I don't know what your soil is like. I don't know what your water pressure is like, right? And so a drip system that has several rings and soaks a wide area would be different than one that has one ring. If a drip system has only a few outlets rather than several outlets, then that would have to be run longer. Water pressure varies from person to person. I would tell you that after it's been dry for 5 or 6 days, dig down a little bit, you know, kind of a foot or so away from your drip system and see how dry the soil is. Then run that drip system for an hour and a half. Dig down next to where you dug down the first time and see, is it wet? You know, do a little investigation, do a little data mining and see, you know, what your system provides. And that's also true if you're using a sprinkler, because I know for my sprinklers, my water pressure, I can water my hydrangea circle once a week for 3 hours and it's perfect. I can't say if that's true for yours. So do a little bit of investigation. How can you tell if you have vanilla strawberry hydrangeas? Well, vanilla strawberry looks very similar to a couple of others, including Pinky Winky. But what I would tell you to do is, if you have a picture of how it looked last year in full bloom, go to Google Image and type in vanilla strawberry hydrangea. You'll get a million pictures of it in full bloom, and compare yours to that one. And compare the laciness of the flowers, because there's another called, I'm blanking on the name. There are several that look very similar. So compare that and compare the description of the height a vanilla strawberry to yours. You might have quick fire, you might have pinky winky, you might have vanilla strawberry, you might have, there's another one that I can't remember the name. So there you go. Okay, it is time for us to say good night because it's dinner time. I have saved the chat. I will answer all the rest of the questions on the Hyannis Country Garden blog in the next couple of days. I really appreciate you being with me. I wish you all great hydrangea happiness this summer and beyond. Stay in touch. Come and see me on Fridays at Hyannis Country Garden, or keep in touch with me by email, clfernari@hyanniscountrygarden. Oh, clfernari@countrygarden.com. Okay, the email address is shorter. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.